Robert Baer in The Devil We Know, quote, "What's critical to understand is that Iran today has an unshakable belief in its right to empire. It means to achieve this through proxy warfare and control over oil supplies." That's two sentences and two assertions. Let's take them one at a time. An unshakable belief in a right to empire.
Do you want me to say it in politically incorrect?
Yeah, please.
They think they are superior, the Iranians do, to the Arabs.
So there's an ethnic overlay here.
It's huge.
And
they look at the ethnics as Bedouin, as backward, and they look at their civilization as more advanced than even the West. They'll go through their old empires. They'll go through any number of things, and they think they're a superior culture. I think we're talking about a people, and there's a certain amount of exaggeration. And they also look at the chaos around them. On Sunday, there was a bombing that killed 41 in Sistan province that was done by a suicide bomber, and they look at the mess in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, and they look at Iraq, the suicide bombings there, and they see the barbarians at the gate. And they do not intend to let those barbarians cross the border. And if they have to become aggressive to stop the barbarians, which they look at, and again, this is an exaggeration, as Sunnis, Muslims, they will. And they'll do it through proxies, they'll do it through irregular warfare, asymmetric warfare, if you like.
The Persian proportion of the population of Iran itself
51%.
is 51%. So, and it's remarkable how fragmented the remaining 49% is. You've got about 24% Azeri, as I recall, and everybody else is in single digits. There are a dozen other ethnic groups that are in single digits.
They're sitting on a volcano.
Yeah. So the 51% Persians say to themselves, we can control these people in our own borders. Why we can control them in a wider empire too? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, absolutely.
We know how to control them.
When it comes to the Arabs, they can. When is the last time the Arabs in the Gulf fought a war? Never.
And that's because
not in modern history, because they're not organized to do it.
I think
you accept all this?
More or less. I think that the problem with Iran is that it's an imploding society. It has these minority problems, it has these rivalries, it's got now a constitutional system emerging in Iraq, it's got this problem in Lebanon, it's not liked by the Arab countries, it's got the Europeans in this Orwellian situation where they're on the right side of us now. Sarkozy pushing us. I never thought in my lifetime I would see an Iranian president lecture an American president.
French president lecture.
Excuse me, French president. But I think what the problem is for us is that we've got this regime in there that wants to tell the Muslim world that the Shia and the Persian, who have been the minority and less distinguished, are the real inheritors of Muslim supremacy, and that they are the people who will deal with the Zionist entity, and that they're willing, as Rafsanjani said years ago, to lose a sizable number of their population. But to us, we think this is crazy, this is surreal. I think it is. I don't think they're serious. But 65 years after the Holocaust, you can't expect a small Jewish state, which is, as I think, I've never found the documentation of that statement, but someone, the widely quoted one-bomb state is what Iranian supposedly said about Israel, that it was a one-bomb state.
Meaning it would take one bomb to
obliterate I don't think that's Israel. Quite true myself. A 20-kiloton bomb wouldn't destroy all of Israel. But nevertheless, if it's 65 years after the Holocaust, you can't expect the state here to sit there and just say to themselves, Ahmadinejad, Rafsanjani, all these people are just trying to chest thump because they're Shia and they're Persian and they want to tell the Arab world they're the real tough Muslim. So that's what the problem is, that because in nuclear poker, lunacy is an advantage, and that's what they're trying to convey, and we think it's lunacy, but we don't know.
Daniel Pipes, quote, "Iran today is reminiscent of the Soviet Union in the 1970s. The regime is brutal and aggressive, but hollow." Bob?
I don't think it's hollow. I mean, it's not hollow in the sense that it's going to collapse like the Soviet Union. We shouldn't liken.
We have Putin, as far as we can tell, because now Russia is free and people get in there and conduct public opinion polls. We view Putin as a very difficult, disagreeable character, but there's no doubt he commands the support of well over half the population of Russia. Does the regime in Iran command the support of a significant portion of the population?
We are not in a pre-revolutionary state in Iran. There's no signs of it. I think we're seeing Takfiri Sunni fundamentalism on the edges. I think we're seeing a threat coming in from Pakistan. There's going to be a lot more bombs going off, but there's no sign that there's going to be a velvet revolution or an insurgence by the Azeris would be key, for instance. The state is too powerful, too brutal, and too capable of controlling Iran right now.
I have a question here that was submitted by Twitter from somebody who calls himself UK Manchild. Strange name, but a good question. Should the United States have supported the protesters, the dissidents, in the after effects of the current Iranian revolution? You're suggesting.
Can I answer that?
Yes, please.
Look,
it sounds as though you're suggesting Obama got it about right. This was the wrong time to push.
Karoubi and Mousavi,
give us a sentence on each of them,
were directly involved in blowing up the Marines in the U.S. Embassy in 1983. They have blood on their hands. These are not people that we can in any way trust. They have made it appear they've transformed themselves into some sort of green revolution, but they haven't. There is no alternative in Iran that we can identify that should come to power to replace Khamenei and Rafsanjani, that I can identify.
Well, I think the question is, were all the million people behind Mousavi? I think it was more like people who went out in the streets in '79 and said that they were for Khomeini, but they were for Bani Sadr, or they were for a socialist-type European state. So what I'm suggesting is maybe it would have been counterproductive for George Bush to do it, but this is part to support the people in the street in Tehran. It would have been tarred them with the Bush brush. But 53% of the Americans voted for Barack Obama because he was the promised transcendent candidate that appealed over the heads of governments and political leaders. So it seemed to me that he was in a very unique position of not supporting Mousavi, but saying to the Iranian people, we support your legitimate concerns over constitutional government, and do a lot more rather than wait. What he ended up resembling was an old-style Jim Baker realist that was saying, let's see who wins. Whoever wins, if it's Tiananmen Square again, we do not want to be on the side of the losers. So it didn't look good, and it sort of bothered our Sunni allies as well, and it bothered a lot of people in the world. And people like Barack Obama, who talk about human rights and idealism and make fun of the old ideological blinkers that we had, they shouldn't be on the wrong side of history. I agree with Robert. Mousavi's a thug, but the people who were in the street who said that they were supported him were not thugs.